I just can't do it for another 10 years. A guy said that to me 5 minutes into our first meeting, dead sure he had another decade left to work. Everybody wants that magic number. 1 million, 2 million. But whether you've got 500 grand or 5 million, that was never the question. It's 5 specific numbers. So go ahead, grab a pen, run yours alongside mine, and by the end you'll know exactly where you stand, and you're probably a little closer than you think. Number 1 is what everything else is built on, your real monthly expenses. Now, not what you think you spend or what you put down in your budget, but what you actually spend. Here's the good news riding inside this one. Most people have never actually looked, so most are just guessing. And once you stop guessing, the picture usually gets clearer fast and in your favor more often than not. So let's get you an honest number instead of that scary one. The catch is, people give me that tidy little budget number that's in their head. The real one's higher because it includes stuff you forget. You know, the car that needs tires, the kid that needs help, the trip that you guys take every single year, but never count for it. Now, if you guess low, every number from here on out is completely wrong. And you'll find out the hard way in just a couple years. But if you guess it high, you could scare yourself out of retirement you could have already started. Here's the easiest way. Pull your last 12 months' banks and credit card statements. Add them up, divide them by 12. Yeah, that's your real number. More honest than anything you could guess sitting here right now. For the couple we're going to follow through this whole video, that number is going to be $10,000 a month. So now go ahead, write yours down. Number 2 is fast, and it's the one that keeps people up at night. It's your emergency fund. Think of it like the insurance policy that you just pay to yourself. It's the money sitting there on purpose, so when the water heater goes or that surprise bill lands, you're not selling investments at the worst moment possible just to cover it. The mistake here is keeping too much in cash, dragging on for years, or keeping nothing so that first bad month forces you to crack into a retirement account too early. Both of them hurt. One's just a little quieter about it than the other. A very simple target is about 6 months of your real expenses. So for our couple at $10,000 a month, that's around $60,000 set aside. It's enough to ride out a surprise without touching the plan. Now go ahead, write down your 6-month number. Hey, a real quick pause here. Most people watching this don't actually know where they stand. Not because they're not smart, because nobody's ever sat down with them and looked at the whole picture for them. That's exactly what your financial health score is built to do. 10 minutes of your time, 28 questions, no statements, no personal information required. You submit the questionnaire, we look at it and send you back a personalized report showing where you stand, and along with it a list of some actionable ideas that you may have some room to work on. The link, well, it's below in the description. Number 3 is where most people are sitting on more than they think because they've never added it up in one place. This is your fixed income. You know, the money that shows up every month no matter what the market does. Stuff like Social Security, any pensions, any guaranteed money that lands in your bank account, whether it's a good year or a bad one. This is the number people lowball the most. I'd say about 7 out of 10 couples I sit with undercount it. One counts their own Social Security and forgets the others. Or they assume it just won't be there at all for them. Or just pretend it's zero. And quite honestly, that's the objection I hear often. The neighbor who says Social Security is going broke, or the brother-in-law that has their theory, that kind of stuff. I know, everyone's got an opinion, and most of them really aren't worth much. So I'll say it to you plainly. If you're watching this video, you're almost certainly going to get most, if not all, of what you've been promised. Plan around zero, and you'll talk yourself out of a retirement you may have already earned. I had a couple in not long ago. We were wrapping up the plan, and for the first time, they saw everything in one place. His Social Security, then hers. A 401k from a job he had left and forgotten about. That pension she had from her first job out of college and hadn't thought about it in 30 years. Throw in a few IRAs scattered across different brokerage platforms and a joint brokerage account on top of that. None of it had ever been added up for him. And when we laid it all out and mapped out how to pull it in the order that made the most sense tax-wise, so they weren't handing a quarter of it to the IRS, they both just leaned back in their chairs and sighed. That was the moment it hit home. They weren't a decade away. In fact, they had been there for a while. They just couldn't see it because no one had ever shown them the whole picture at once. So, do what they did. Hunt down every source. Both Social Securities, every 401k, any old pension you may have forgot about, and add that into one monthly number. For our couple, it came out to $6,000 a month. So now go ahead, write yours down, and make sure you find the ones you may have lost track of. And if this is the first time anybody's framed Social Security that way for you, do me a favor and hit like. Number 4, this is the one that quietly decides everything. And it's your gap. And it's just subtraction. Take what you spend, subtract what's coming in, no matter what. For our couple, $10,000 a month was going out, $6,000 a month was coming in, fixed. That leaves a gap of $4,000 a month. Now just sit with that one for a second. That's the whole game. The only piece the rest of your money has to cover. Not the $10,000, just the gap. Most people brace for this impossible mountain, and then they see the actual number, and you can just watch their shoulders drop. But here's where it gets interesting, because how big a pile you need to cover that gap depends entirely on one number almost nobody calculates correctly, and that's number 5. And if you'd rather not run all the math by hand, that financial health score I mentioned earlier does it for you. Link, it's below. Number 5 is going to put you ahead of almost anybody because almost nobody gets this right, including plenty who think they have. And it's the after-tax value of your invested assets. If you take one thing away from this video, make it this one, please. This is everything that you can generate income from. The 401ks, the IRAs, the brokerage account. Say our couple adds it up, and it's $1.2 million. It's a pretty good number. They feel really good about it. And on paper, it lines up almost perfectly. $4,000 a month is $48,000 a year. And the old 4% rule says $1.2 million covers that exactly. Done, right? Here's the problem. That $1.2 million isn't $1.2 million. Well, no, not to you, because a big chunk of that, like most people, sits in accounts you never pay taxes on. And the day you pull it out, the IRS is there waiting for its share. Leave it on autopilot, and a quarter of it could vanish to taxes you never may have had to pay. That perfect $1.2 million spends more like, well, about $900,000. Run that through the 4% rule, and you're pulling out $36,000 against a $48,000 gap. Suddenly, the math that looked airtight leaves you $12,000 short a year. That's how a couple who's actually fine convinces themselves they have to work another 5 years. Remember that couple leaning back in their chairs? That gap, the one between the statement and the spendable, is exactly what nearly cost them. Same pile of money, wildly different outcome, depending entirely on the order you pull the money out. And this is where the standard advice begins to fall apart. Those magical round numbers from the start, $1 million here, $2 million there. Same problem as that 4% rule. Or save 25 times your expenses. And every other rule of thumb or brother-in-law that you have swears by. Hey, I'll be straight with you. I'm pushing back on the 4% rule here. And some people in my industry don't really love it. But keep in mind, that rule came out of research from the 90s, built for a worst-case scenario 30-year retirement. It was never meant to be the answer for your actual situation. It can't see your tax brackets, or which accounts to drain first, or the years you'll lean on Social Security instead of your portfolio. Pull from the right accounts in the right order, and you keep more of every dollar, which is the difference between $900,000 and that full $1.2 million. So, number 5 isn't how big is the pile, it's how much do you actually get to keep and spend. Manage that, pulling from the right accounts in the right order, and that $4,000 gap goes from barely closable to fairly comfortable. For most people watching, it's far more doable than the magic million crowd ever makes it sound. And that's why you're probably closer than you think. Not because you saved some giant number, because once you saw all 5, you stopped handing a quarter of your taxes that you didn't have to pay. The math finally tips in your favor. So, that's the 5. Your real expenses, your emergency fund, your fixed income, your gap, and what you keep after taxes. 5 numbers, not some magical total. Run those, and you can see exactly where you stand, and probably for the first time. Hey, one last thing before you go. Most people don't sit through a whole video on retirement unless there's something that's been on their mind. Hey, if that's you and there's a question that's quietly been nagging you about whether your plan is really going to work or not, if it's going to hold up, your financial health score is the most useful next step I can hand to you. 28 questions, about 10 minutes of your time, no statements needed, no personal information is ever asked. We review it personally, and within a day or so, we'll send you back a report, personalized, showing exactly where you stand, along with a list of actionable ideas worth your attention. Some of them you can probably handle yourself. Some you may want some help with. Either way, you'll finally know. Link, it's in the description below. Because knowing your 5 numbers is one thing. Protecting them is another. You know, there are a handful of things that can quietly wreck even the most solid plan, such as outliving your money, a bad market right when you retire, healthcare, taxes that you just didn't see coming. I walk through the 4 most painful ones in another video, and that's exactly the one I think you should watch next. I'm Tim Gardner, and I'll see you over there.